Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, it is everyone's favorite type of episode, a mailbag episode where the fans get to sound off. It's optimism time, right? So spring training is optimism.
Yeah.
So not a lot of like anger or frustration. We're past the Alex Bregman sadness, I think, and just kind of looking for the positives from the fans, and it's the best time of the year for that. So let's get to it. This one, I guess, isn't super positive since it's about.
yeah.
What is the plan?
This is what Craig Counsell would call the injury rabbit hole.
Yeah. What is the plan for second and third base if Nico and Shaw are unavailable for the Japan series? So I'll give you a quick update on what we know. So Nico looks really good. Nico, we've seen him throw a ton. Saw him doing long toss today. I've talked to him quite a bit. He feels good. Not going to push anything. Not going to try and make it to Japan just to make it to Japan. But like I was saying last episode, they may not have to put him on the IL because there's this little bit of a loophole where you can just have your 31 guys that you bring and then activate 26 of them, and nobody needs to be sent down. Nobody needs to be put on the IL. So he could be part of that 5-man group if you want to avoid an IL stint. But it sounds like everything's on track. No setbacks there. Japan is not the goal. It doesn't sound like Arizona is, which is where they open the U.S. portion of the season, right? With Shaw, it's I would think they want to get him in games, right? He is doing a lot of he threw for the first time. When I say threw for the first time, I mean he took grounders and threw to bases on Monday. He took Tuesday off, and the plan is Wednesday more of that. I saw him fielding and all that on one of the fields Tuesday. He likes to hit in the cage. That's where he does his cage, like his hitting. So we haven't seen him out there, but that's not abnormal. That's kind of what he likes to do, is what I was told. Like whether he was healthy, like 100% or not, like that's what he'd be doing.
Isn't he a little bit young to be dictating his routine like that? Or is that just me
I don't know.
overreacting?
Yeah.
Like Kyle Tucker, I get it. Kyle Tucker, his routine is so simple. You're never going to see him. Well, yeah, he's like one of the best hitters in the game. Like Matt Shaw doesn't have a major league at bat yet.
Right. And well, that's the thing. He's not going to dictate that. But no, but I mean, you're not wrong in that, like, this isn't, remember, I think it was last year, Hap was hurt, right? Had the hamstring and he barely played any games. And we're like, well, he's not going to have the runway to get it to start the season. Is he starting the season on the IL? And we were like bandying this about, like wondering how's he going to have enough time? Well, he's a veteran. He doesn't need 2 weeks of games. He just needs to make sure he's healthy, get out there and go play. That's not going to be they want to make sure he has a little bit of a runway, Matt Shaw. So right now we're looking at a Japan series that may not have Matt Shaw and Nico Hoerner. I don't think that's the end of the world. It's 2 games. You want to win all the games you can. You got to take it seriously, right? But everyone's kind of in this spot. The Dodgers are already talking about all these relievers that they have to kind of slow play that have nicks and bruises and all these things. Michael Kopech, I think Evan Phillips, those guys may not be playing in Japan, right? So you don't want to, like Counsell loves to say this, right? You don't want to rush someone to get them ready for opening day, especially this year when it's so much earlier. And then you lose them for 3 months of the season because they came back too soon. Yes, it is important because they're regular season games. Every game counts, but you're not going to rush someone to be there just for that early opening day.
I thought the answer was going to be that they're going to clone John Birdie to play both positions and save money because baseball operations has sort of run out of resources. But that's interesting. I would imagine Birdie would be in that mix. Nicky Lopez. I mean, is Nicky Lopez making this team? He seems to have
So I think right
Be a
now
bubble guy?
we're talking about 40-man spots too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
Vidal, Brujan,
I
or Gage
think
Workman.
like Vidal Brujan, Gage Workman, and John Birdie probably have a leg up on Nicky Lopez,
Okay.
right? That's kind of what I've gathered. Uh, I wouldn't rule out Nicky Lopez just because he is a veteran, but I don't know if he's going to be someone that you have to add to the 40-man in order to not lose him. I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And the others are all already on the 40-man. I would say, uh, I'd say like Birdie gets one of those spots, and then the other goes. I think the other is a battle between Workman and Brujan. Brujan, uh, more speed, can add more to like a little more versatile as far as he can play some outfield spots. But they're trying to get Workman to different spots. They played him in right field the other day. He's a really good defender at third base. Can play a little shortstop, and he has been hitting in spring. I'm not going to take too much away from it. Brujan hit a home run on Tuesday. I'm not going to take too much away from it, but I think you kind of have to evaluate everything when it is like this competition, right, between everyone.
Yeah.
Like what you have to evaluate. You have to evaluate it on something. So how do you decide what it is you're breaking down? But I just think like you can't say it's we're going off last year or anything like that when it's these like 25th 26th people on the roster. And Workman is a Rule 5 pick. If they like him enough, do they want are they going to keep him around all season? I don't know, but like you have to that's another decision that maybe they can kick to US portion of opening day.
I mean, it's going to be pretty. I know the Dodgers pitchers are always injured, so whatever. But it's going to be pretty dramatic if that is the case. If there's no Nico, and even though Matt Shaw is unproven, he's still like a prospect name and kind of represents something going against this all-time epic lineup. Well, we'll see when you get there, Sahadev.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know what? This is another prospect that is opening some eyes in spring training. Don't want to go overboard again in spring training. Alcántara is a legit prospect, though. What do you see as best worst case scenario for Kevin Alcántara this season? That is from Sports. I couldn't put his handle on there because it was not appropriate for me to put.
Oh, okay.
So that's
we do have a rigorous editing process here.
Yes,
yeah.
So, best in here's what I would say. Like, and Council was asked about Alcántara. He's been asked about Alcántara quite a few times since I got here, because he's looked good in games. I think Jesse Rogers asked Mike Schilt, the Padres manager, about Alcántara because he hit that opposite field home run with ease on Monday. And when people do stuff like that, I don't care what time of year it is. When you're 22 or whatever he is, people talk about it, right? He's a good defender. He's big. He's got a little bit room to grow still as far as putting on muscle, and he has this easy power and this insane upside. He's an intriguing talent. Council was asked about him today, like what is does he need to play every day? And I liked his answer. He basically said if he has 150 plate appearances this year, that's not good for his development. But does he need to play every day all year? That probably not. So essentially his answer is he's going to be playing every day at AAA at some point this season. And he's also going to be up at some point this season. And in all likelihood, when he's up, he's like the backup outfielder, probably backup center fielder and things like that. So he's going to help this team in some fashion, or be a part of this team in some fashion at some point this season. But he needs to play regularly, and that the best shot for that is AAA. We'll see when he comes up. It could be to the start of the season. I wouldn't completely rule it out. I'd be a little surprised because it seems like they're trying to get Brujan as the backup center fielder as well. There's different ways to go about this. You may not need a backup center fielder right away. You could get away with if something happens to PCA in the middle of a game, you can always put Hap there to get by, and then kind of and then call up Alcántara as soon as possible, or whatever that you need to do, right? There are other 40-man or non 40-man guys that have been invited, like Greg Allen, Travis Jankowski, that they may want to add to the 40-man. We'll see what they do and how they handle that, but I don't know if there's a best or worst case. I think the worst case scenario is like injury or not playing well at AAA, or not getting up to the big leagues, or just being stuck on the bench for too long and not developing. Like, those are the bad scenarios. You want to know the best case scenario for Kevin Alcántara, and I've been saying this pretty much since they traded for him, because this is what I hear from scouts, is like a 40 home run center fielder that's one of the best, like that's a stud. That is the best case scenario. It's very unlikely he reaches that ceiling, right? Like, that's what raw talents are, but it's starting to come together. So yes, they still have like this excitement for him, and he's kind of showing you like flashes of it. So he's an exciting talent. I'm not predicting that he, it all comes together for that, but the more he shows me, the more I'm like, maybe he can be like this upside guy. I'll add this, Patrick. I don't want to end it on a negative note, but we've talked a lot about We've talked a lot about the budget, and re-signing Kyle Tucker. The more you and I talk to people around the game, the more it seems like that's just not going to happen, right? Like, unless something changes with the way they behave, and I'm talking about like the business side, that like it doesn't make sense. You're not spending $45 million a year on one player when your budget is 215 million, right? That's just a poor allocation of resources. So makes it harder to trade someone like Kevin Alcántara when you kind of have to look to the future as well and kind of say like, who fills that spot. So Kevin Alcántara could be the starting right fielder in 2026, and it may not be the way what fans want to hear, but if he's good, maybe it's not like the worst thing in the world. I think you should be frustrated by a 210, 215 budget, but that's a topic that we've hammered and we'll continue to talk about.
Yeah, it's a whole another episode. I mean, I would say the worst case scenario would probably be, I don't know, Brennan Davis, Alexander Canario. Those you mentioned injuries, like stuff like that. If you just miss huge chunks of development time and burn a 40-man year without getting any like practical on-field experience, it's a bad outcome. And I think a realistic best case beyond him like joining the 40-40 club or something like that would be kind of what happened to Pete Crow Armstrong last year, of like coming up and kind of earning a little more and figuring things out. And I just bring that up because if PCA does say like, I don't know, run into a wall or whatever, and I think of that because that's what Jed was asked about Seiya DHing and this outfield crunch. He's like, look, I stared at the whiteboard in 2016. How are we going to fit all these outfielders together? And then it was like, what, game 3 or 4 when Schwarber and Dexter collided. So like things can change fast. And if something like that does happen, like he's next man up, right? Like he's like the center fielder of the moment, right? That would get that sort of run.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
And I'm reading this question again, and it says best case scenario for this season. So I when I said what I said, that's
you can't take it back. You can't take it back.
That's not for this season. Like best case, I think you're right. Like him, it would be unfortunate, right? Like, but him getting everyday burn in the big leagues and being an average offensive player and showing that he's a plus or maybe not plus, but a plus defender in center
plays
field
on defense.
Yeah. I think that's a really nice, maybe best case scenario for this season for Kevin Alcántara personally, getting very regular playing time and showing he belongs in the big leagues, both offensively and defensively. And frankly, like on the bases too, he's a fast dude. So yeah, you don't want to think about injuries and stuff like that, but he's a talented kid, and we're starting to see it. And I'm glad he's a fascinating character and fun and entertaining. So let's see where that goes. I'm not sure if he'll get the burn this year.
An average offensive center fielder probably has a 10-year career in the big leagues and makes like $100 million, right? I mean, like just in terms of like how you've written this, it's like how rare those guys are. And if the Cubs maybe have two of them, it's could be impressive.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Here's negative town for you. Too early to speculate on what Tom Ricketts would be looking for in a replacement for Jed Hoyer. That's from Please Talk to Me 1. I don't think it's too early because Jed is on the final year of his deal and he has to win. And if they don't make the playoffs, we're in all likelihood we're going to be talking about another, team president, GM, whatever you want to call it, whatever, someone run a new head of baseball operations. What is Tom going to look for? Someone that is willing to survive on the budget that he hands out, that, the 14th highest payroll in baseball, despite having the third biggest market, and what, like, how much revenue, the third highest revenue in baseball, fourth top 5 revenue, and a 15, in a mid-market budget. That's what he wants. There's a reason he's brought up the Arizona Diamondbacks and their run before. There's a reason he talks about how money isn't the most important thing. Prospects build via prospects. Look, I don't think what Jed Jed is doing what he wants. What Tom wants, is there someone better? Maybe, but now you're like, here's the thing that people that want that means you're tearing down the front office, right? Like a lot of changes are coming, and you're talking about changing, processes and various departments. Who's loyal to Jed in the front office, right? How many people do you lose? How many departments need to be kind of redone? You're talking about this isn't like a new head of baseball operations. Now the bank is open and we're spending big. That's not changing. That is not changing unless they have a change in philosophy, and it has nothing to do with Jed. It has nothing to do with who's in charge of baseball operations. So it's I don't know who that person is that you're talking about. But it would have to be, for it to be a lot better. I don't know. You'd have to find someone really creative and someone that knows how to, whatever the secrets are that the Dodgers and the Rays and the Guardians and the Brewers have, all those behind the scenes stuff. If there's someone that can do it better, that's what you're talking about. And I don't know. Is that what fans care about? Do fans are they really interested in that, or do they just want more spending?
I mean, look, Tom has the guy who's running the team exactly the way he wants, except, he would have in 2023 wanted another win over whatever the Marlins or Diamondbacks that would have snuck them into the playoffs. He's making the rational decisions that ownership wants in free agency. He's avoiding the mega deals. He's avoiding the extreme long-term contracts. The farm system is well regarded. The pitching development program has been overhauled. Look, I mean, Jed Hoyer's 0-4 making the playoffs as the Cubs president of baseball operations. So, it's not too early because ownership did not extend him, and you can see it in some of Jed's reactions. His you can hear it in his voice, his comments about how he worked within constraints, and those constraints don't just disappear if you change the top of it. And Tom Ricketts, when I spoke with him at Cubs convention, said we're strongly aligned. We talk every day. This is kind of the operation that they want. So for me, and if you're talking about those things like you mentioned, this they've hired guys from the Brewers, from the Guardians, from the Dodgers. They've brought in those kind of elements to get it to a place where maybe there's some whatever secret sauce or different way of doing things. But, to me, I think I agree with Jed to an extent of the front office should view this as more of an opportunity than a risk, or more reward than downside, because and they got a pretty good team. They play in a bad division. There's an extra wild card. I have a hard time seeing this season like going totally off the rails to where like they lose 90 games, right? Like
they just get waylaid by injuries, right? That's like
or like every young player falls on his face,
yeah,
like, at third, at first, and center.
I guess that
like that could happen, but in terms of like just where they're selling at the deadline, they're totally out of it. Like I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around that. So I would think that, look, they need to survive a tough start to the season, need to bank some wins, and then like they'll figure out what they need. They'll have to make the appeal to ownership to get some more money to go get players, and then you just like start moving pieces from the farm and get in impact players to get you to October. It's kind of how I see this year unfolding in very broad strokes.
Right. All right. Let's end it on a fun one. Cole Winterland wants to know, what are the best and worst parts of covering spring training? I'll let you kick that off, Patrick.
I would say really the only downside is being away from home for so long. Like that is tough. Although we're kind of spoiled now where we can break it up into much smaller segments. But otherwise, like, man, it is a great assignment. Like I personally like the mornings, the set schedules. Almost everyone you want to talk to is there. And it's a lot of casual conversations or bumping into people. Really almost no complaints about it. I mean, the weather in Arizona, I guess awesome. If it was spring training in Florida, probably has more downside.
Yeah.
Phoenix is very compact, right?
If I'm gonna nitpick, it's driving to like Surprise or Goodyear. That's the stuff. Like it's nitpicking. It's sitting in traffic and going to crappy road games that if we covered in Florida would be a joke, right? Like that they drive so much further than us. So it's nitpicking. I love the food here. Like you see, there's a lot of other beat writers that I go out to dinner with, go out to drinks with. That's always fun. The best part for me is, you touched on it, you run into so many baseball people on the backfield, scouts, player development people, coaches that you don't get to see all the time, prospects, whatever. You have much more laid back conversations. You lay the groundwork for the season. Carter and Jed are like available a lot, and you see them a lot because you're just kind of like walking around the facility and you chat with them. Like it's just a much more casual setup, and it sets everything up for the season, and you get a lot of information. You talk to a lot of different people within the organization and outside the organization, and it's just I love it. I love like gathering information is my favorite part of this job. It's I like to joke, it's just like gossip, right? We're gossiping at all times, and I love gossip. So you want to tell me, there's no such thing as too much information as far as I'm concerned. Like keep it coming. I really like spring training. I do miss my kids after a little while, but I always said my limit is 3 weeks, and we don't do that anymore between you and I. So I love it. We have a nice setup. We're spoiled. So there's just not a lot to complain about. This is a fun time of year. I do get antsy towards the end, and I just want the season to start and things to matter. So maybe there's another nitpick right there. Like we're not there yet. Though, because it's still like gathering information and new stuff. Like, in 2 months, I'm gonna look back at some of the stuff I wrote, and I'm like, I wrote about that dude. But we're right now it's fun and it's all new and everything. So you're just happy to be back at it. And frankly, the weather is awesome right now this year. So I won't rub that in since you're back home. Yeah. I wore shorts today. First day of shorts, baby. So we'll keep that going. We got 85 again on Wednesday. So so I'll make sure to day 2 of shorts. I'll stop talking about the weather. I know I'm irritating far too many people, although I hear it's kind of nice in Chicago right now, at least compared to what it was.
Yeah. So today is on Tuesday was nice. It kind of felt like spring was sort of coming, and it was classic. You would appreciate this of like, it's still not like warm, but I just saw people in like t-shirt and shorts walking around.
Absolutely.
It was probably like, you know, I'm guessing it
So
might have been, you know,
Chicago.
45, 50, you know what I mean? People are walking
Right.
their dog in like shorts and flip-flops, stuff like that.
And that happens here, and we're like bundled up and like, what the hell is going on? Even it doesn't matter that we're from Chicago. We still complain if it's 60 here. Like, why is it so cold? All right. Thanks for all the questions, guys. It's always fun to do those mailbags. We'll make sure to do that again soon because we get so many good questions. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I will be on top of all things Cubs. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take